Welcome to LowCountry Law on Air. I'm Major Bob Bromage with the Beaufort County Sheriff's Office. I'm the Public Information Officer, and with me tonight in the studio is Sheriff P.J. Tanner. We've got a lot to talk about regarding COVID-19 and also public information and how things are changing and evolving. We've had some issues with our Everbridge Nixle system lately. We want to kind of go through that and also talk about what restrictions are still in place regarding coronavirus, COVID-19, Governor McMaster's executive orders. And with that, we'll start by talking about public information. And Sheriff, going back to 2016, during Hurricane Matthew, everything was going great during the evacuation phase of the operation. Mm-hmm. And we quickly learned that after Hurricane Matthew impacted us pretty heavily, especially on the barrier islands,
right,
that we were ill-prepared to deal with the social media onslaught. And clearly we were not out there early and often on Facebook, and we were taught a very valuable lesson. Now, moving forward, we implemented a few different strategies to attempt to mitigate some of the problems that we had during Hurricane Matthew. And that is engaging Facebook early and often, using our Nixle alert and advisory system early and often, consistently, so people knew where to get their message, and not only on a timely level, but also consistently. So they didn't have to go to social media when there was avoiding that information. And that was just a very valuable lesson. And of course, I think a lot of other agencies around the country learned the same lessons in different events.
I'm sure.
Peeling the layers back on Ferguson, Missouri, during the shooting, officer-involved shooting in 2014, there's a salient point where the St. Louis, Missouri County Sheriff's Office or County Police Department had went up on Facebook within the first 24 hours after the shooting, indicating this is where the public was going to get their information. Mm-hmm. Well, that agency disappeared for 15 days and resurfaced. So what happens when there's avoiding information is that people are going to gravitate to where there is information, whether it's misinformation or good information. They're going to go to Facebook, they're going to go to Twitter. So it behooves public safety agencies to have a consistent, early and often presence on social media during major events. And we're talking about coronavirus, COVID-19, we're talking about hurricanes, we're talking about active shooter incidents and things of that nature.
Well, Bob, just to add to that too, one of the things that we learned a lot during Hurricane Matthew, especially what we should have been doing during the hurricane, but the reentry phase of it, and making sure that that we were using every part of social media that we're allowed to use, and for the reasons we were using it. I think it's important and you've done a terrific job putting this package together over the years, but I think it's important that our citizens get information from the source.
Right.
And I really just don't think it's fair to our citizens or to anyone else that the only source of information that they get is either out of a newspaper or off of the 5 o'clock news that comes on your television set. So, and I think the social media side of it, Nixle being one of those leading parts that we use, and I know you're going to talk about that more with a new app, but I think it's important that we give real-time factual information to our citizens and let them evaluate on their own what the facts are, instead of it being a newspaper article or a 2-minute blurb on a television channel. So I think when we need to push information out, when we need our citizens to know what's going on, we need to be on top, and we need to have all the resources available to us to provide that information to the general public. So I know we're running into some situations now with Nixle. I want you to explain that too, and how we're going to the new app.
Sure. And after Hurricane Matthew, we were heavily criticized by the island packet.
Rightly so.
Absolutely. And how do you look at that criticism? You say, you know what? Let's be constructive about this. Let's put something together that's actually finding our audience. Not making them come to us is a bad idea. Okay? We're here to serve the citizens of Beaufort County. We should be going to them, finding out where they like to get their information. So that's what we've done. Within 2 months, we had a shooting incident at the Tanger Outlet in Bluffton. And we had a little mess up there as well. But again, getting tuned up by the Island Packet sometimes, and it was actually Liz Farrell that brought that to our attention. Facebook took over the narrative of a shooting at the Tanger Outlets in December of 2016, and rightfully we were called on it, and went back to the drawing board from there. Now Liz Farrell is actually the public information officer for Beaufort County government, so that's going to be a really helpful partner in public information moving forward. But what we did is went back to the drawing board, and we looked at other avenues where people like to get their information. I'd like to thank Bluffton, Hilton Head Ask and Answer, Beaufort, Eat, Sleep, Play Beaufort, Hilton Head, Bluffton Ask and Answer, Bluffton, Hilton Head Island Hurricane Preparedness, and LowCountry FYI. These are all private Facebook groups that have partnered with us to make sure that people are getting the correct information from the government and official sources. Sure. So it's important to recognize them. But also we got up on Nextdoor, which is an incredible avenue to reach our public.
Very much so.
53,000 people as of today that are signed up in Beaufort County for Nextdoor. Nixle, we talked about Nixle.
Right.
38,000. Our Facebook page, 28,000. Our emergency management page, another 6,000 or 7,000. So I mean, it just goes up and up. And this is where people like to get their information. So we've made adjustments to go after it that way. Now, going back to Nixle, Everbridge, the parent company of Nixle, informed us after Hurricane Dorian that they started getting charged back from Verizon, AT&T, and other mobile carriers for text messages that were going out through Nixle. So they've asked us to partner with them and try to make some adjustments to be real partners rather than, hey, we've got a contract here and you need to own up to it and we need to make adjustments on how our folks in Beaufort County are getting their messages to Nixle. So what we've recommended at this point is either turning on their notifications for their email on their mobile devices so they get it just like they would get a text, or downloading the mobile app. Now, the mobile app is a very effective way. It's immediate, just like text and email. It's free, which is a huge selling point right there, so it's not going to cost them anything to do it.
Right.
Now, if they download that app, they're going to get the information instantly, just like they would a text. Now, we've assembled a instructional video at the sheriff's office. Stephanie French, who works our multimedia, assembled a video, and we're going to publish it during the break. And we just recommend and encourage people to consider downloading the app to make sure that we're not missing anybody. And I guess that's the biggest point with public information, like you had said, Sheriff. We don't want to leave anybody behind. We want everybody to get that information and have clear instructions, especially during a reentry or during COVID-19. Hey, what's open, what's closed? What can you do and what can't you do under the governor's executive order? So, again.
And I think the Island Packet has had some great coverage on COVID-19, and every day they're putting out information that DHEC's giving us. And I think all the local media in general, and all, of course our TV media out of Savannah, I think they've been doing a good job. And I think but once you find a source of information, and we talked about this after Matthew, once you rely on a source of information, you have a tendency to go back to that source.
That's right.
And that's why creating something or utilizing something like Nixle is so important to us, because it's official information. It's not hearsay. It's not rumor.
Absolutely.
It's official information, and especially during a reentry. An evacuation is one thing, but a reentry back into the county, kind of like after Matthew. But in the future, if we have a reentry, that's the hardest part of the process. Moving people out of the county is a lot easier than moving citizens back into an area, especially if you have damage, because the damage dictates how you make that next move. And having reliable information instead of Facebook. Facebook is great, but Facebook hurt us during Hurricane Matthew. Because as I said before, the Facebook bomb went off of someone that stayed, that went out in their backyard and there was no debris down, and they take a video of the weather, and the weather after Matthew was absolutely unbelievable.
Beautiful.
And they take a video in their backyard, look, no damage, everything's great. And then all of their Facebook friends that did evacuate are watching this video and going, oh, let's pack up and go home. Everything's great in Beaufort, until they get to the county line.
And we failed to let them know, hey, don't come back.
Right.
So did we learn from that? Oh, yeah. And I think that moving forward, and hurricane season's knocking on our door.
Won't be long.
2 months from now, we'll be in hurricane season. So making these adjustments along the way has been very effective. I mean, we went through again, Hurricane Dorian last year. Went through Hurricane Irma that brushed us up as well.
Sure.
And we did not have the same problem because we learned from our mistakes and took the criticism constructively, and through your leadership saying, hey, we need to make this right. And now I think it is right. I think we're doing what we need to do. And again, the local media, the Island Packet, doing a super job covering COVID-19, as are the TV media out of Savannah. So.
And I think when we take a break here in a few minutes, I think the commercial during that break is going to be about the new app, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
And the commercial break's it's an instructional video, again, put together by Stephanie French from our office, going through how to download the mobile app. And again, we encourage our residents to download this mobile app to make sure they're not going to miss any of these nixles, because there's a lot of confusion right now. Some are coming from Jasper County that are reaching Beaufort County's residents that have signed up for ours, and we just don't want to leave anybody behind. We are sending out many nixles every week throughout this COVID-19 pandemic, and we just don't want people missing that. So we just recommend that, please, during the break, we're going to return in a few minutes. Please watch the video and download the Nixle Everbridge mobile app. We'll be right back. Welcome back to LowCountry Law on Air. Sheriff Tanner and I were discussing during the break that there's numerous items we need to cover for the remainder of the program. We just hope everybody had an opportunity to look at the instructions for the mobile app for Nixle Everbridge and download it to continue to receive information on a timely level from us. So, Sheriff, we were talking about what businesses are still closed at this point, because I think there is some confusion out there in the community about, okay, we know retail stores may reopen if they decide to at this point, but what businesses might be still closed?
And I think it's important that we cover that aspect of it. What is closed? And then, if anyone has a question about something that we don't cover, they can review or Google or do what they need to do to try to determine, or make a phone call to try to determine if it's open.
Right. The Department of Commerce is definitely the authority on that, and we recommend anybody that says, okay, there's still this is still vague, I'm not sure if my business can reopen, they need to contact the South Carolina Department of Commerce. But we'll go through the list of the businesses that are still closed. These are not, these cannot reopen. they're still prohibited and they're still closed under the governor's order of non-essential business. Nightclubs, bowling alleys, arcades, concert venues, theaters, auditoriums, and performing arts centers, tourist attractions including museums, aquariums, and planetariums, racetracks, indoor children's play areas with the exceptions of licensed child care facilities, adult entertainment venues, bingo halls, venues operated by social clubs, recreational and athletic facilities and activities as follows: fitness and exercise centers and commercial gyms, spas and public or commercial swimming pools, group exercise facilities to include yoga, barre, and spin studios or facilities, spectator sports, sports that involve interaction in close proximity to and within less than 6 feet of another person, Executive Order 2020-18. Activities that require the use of shared sporting apparatus and equipment. Activities on commercial or public playground equipment. Close contact service providers as follows: barbershops, hair salons, waxing salons, threading salons, nail salons and spas, body art facilities and tattoo services, tanning salons, massage therapy establishment, and massage services. So, Sheriff, that's a list of businesses that are to remain closed under the governor's executive order.
Well, Bob, I'm gonna tell you, it looks like your haircut. I don't know. I don't know if you have the old Flowbee.
I do. As a matter of fact, I'm glad
because
you
it's
asked
pretty evident that I haven't been to a barber shop. But you're looking kind of like a fresh cut there. So
nothing wrong with
the old Flowbee works.
Got to touch it up in the morning.
Okay. So. All right. And you know that list of you know closures is still in effect, and I know that the governor, he relaxed his executive order weekend back and opened up the boat landings. You know, the first weekend we had after that was relaxed. We had some bad weather that came through, which kind of helped us, you know, with sandbar issues and rafting issues and those type things. But this past weekend, the weather was outstanding, and we had a lot of boat traffic. And what I want people to understand is where the boat landings or the public boat landings are now being used, and the governor wants people to enjoy fishing and boat riding or what have you. At the same time, we've got to be real careful, and I want our citizens that are boating, like this weekend coming is going to be an absolute gorgeous weekend.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not sure what the tide table is right now, but we cannot be on sandbars. We cannot be rafting. That's boats tying up together and rafting. If you're going out, go for a boat ride, go fishing, take your family out, and do the things you should be doing. But, you know, we're flying all of the areas in the county on the weekend. We flew this past weekend, and the reports were not good for Saturday. Reports were a little bit better on Sunday, but we'll be flying this weekend again. Our Marine Patrol is out. We're working with DNR and Bluffton and Beaufort and all those folks in Port Royal. But what we don't need to do and what can't happen is that we just completely ignore the relaxing of the executive order to a point to where we just start flocking to these sandbars. Because what will happen is that we'll probably see a new executive order where we're actually looking at closing the public boat ramps again because of people not, using common sense and doing the right thing. So we just want people to be very careful with that.
Yeah, I think the governor's made it clear that he's relaxing the executive orders unless something develops where people are ignoring social distancing and the main point of all that is curbing the spread of COVID-19.
Sure.
Curbing the spread, requires social distancing. You've heard from all the medical experts, and that's what we're asking. Now, with the exception of family units, being a group of 3 or more,
still applies.
It still applies. It is an illegal act under state of emergency if you're approached by law enforcement and told to disperse.
And I know that our citizens are becoming fatigued.
Sure.
We're going into week 8, and And I know it's been a lot to ask of our citizens, and I know we have been asking a lot. But I travel throughout this county every day, and I'm visiting businesses. I'm going to the grocery store like everyone else. I go to Sam's, I go to the pharmacy and do all the things that I do. And I'll tell you that I am impressed every time I visit a business or a grocery store or what they're doing. I play golf on Sundays, and Sunday afternoons we kind of got our own crew that we go play golf. And the golf courses, they're cleaning the carts, they're wiping down everything. There's one person per golf cart. It's a great outing. Social distancing is absolutely practiced as a part of it. There's no rakes in the sand trap. There's no sand bottles on the cart. You can't touch the pin. Things are, and those are the right things to do. But at the same time, where people are doing a terrific job, we also we're having to issue warning tickets. We're having to issue citations to people that have been warned previously, and they're just not heeding the warning. So we're having to issue those tickets. And I'll tell you, the more fatigued our citizens become, probably the ticket numbers are going to go up.
Well, and I think it's the many are suffering at the hands of a few that are doing the wrong thing. We know we're going to have a certain element out there that's going to push the envelope. That's going to happen every time. And that's where these tickets and warnings are coming in. And there's no question about it. Going to a grocery store, you see everybody wearing a mask, wearing gloves, being responsible. Yeah. And we got to congratulate our residents for just they're doing great. So vigilant about their health and everybody else's health, looking out for your neighbor.
We know that we have a percentage of calls for service that have gone down over the past several weeks, and we go back into the latter part of March through April, and those calls for service have gone down. Here's the other thing that I want citizens to be conscious of during this process. People are at home, children are out of school, people are doing a lot of work at home. Just to name two businesses, I'm not trying to ignore the rest, but you got Home Depot and Lowe's. They are as busy as I've ever seen them.
Oh, yeah.
And because people are doing yard work, they're doing things around the house, and they're getting things done. That honey-do list grew for a period of time, and now you're trying to check it off. But at the same time, because people are home, not only during the day but at night, and children are out of school, I want people to be extremely conscious that when we do start seeing more openings of businesses and we start seeing different things open up, that we've got to be very, very mindful that our B&Es, our burglaries, and those type things could increase because people are home now. So we're not having daytime issues other than an occasional domestic and stuff like that. But I just want people to be mindful. So while you're doing all of this yard work and sprucing up the house, consider doing an inventory of your personal property. If you have firearms in your home, take the time while you have the time to do an inventory of your firearms, take photographs, write down serial numbers, and do those type things. And look at alarm systems, and especially video systems.
Which are increasingly cheap,
Inexpensive. You can buy most anywhere now. It's a do-it-yourself type job. And I'd like people to consider that too on the crime prevention side of it.
All right, Sheriff, we were talking earlier, our extra patrols of businesses and residences, respectively, 30% increase in, business checks, which making sure that while we're asking people to stay at home, that we're out looking out for their businesses that are not occupied, and that's a great thing. And also residential patrols went up some 20 some odd percent. So impressive, and again, we want people to know that while they're at home and while we're asking them to quarantine at home, that we're out looking out for their interests.
And that's why I want to touch on this, because I know you're going to do Nixle on this later today, but I just want to talk about a case, from yesterday. About 9 o'clock in the morning, we had a case where we had officers advised that there was a stolen vehicle on St. Helena. We had 4 deputy sheriffs respond to that report of a stolen vehicle. They find the vehicle, they get into a vehicle chase, and then they end up making a capture on the driver of the vehicle. I mean, it was charged with possession of a stolen vehicle, failing to stop, unlawful carry of a firearm, possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, and that's just to name some of the charges. But during that incident, the suspect in this particular case indicated to deputies that he had COVID-19, that he had the coronavirus. Of course, we expect that to happen from time to time with people claiming that they do, thinking it'll keep them out of jail. But in this particular case, he was adamant about it, and then we researched it and were able to find that, in fact, the residence that he's familiar with, the suspect is familiar with, was a subject of COVID-19. So, we had to quarantine 4 deputy sheriffs yesterday based on this particular arrest. The suspect went to the hospital. We should know test results in a couple of days, maybe by Friday. But just to follow up on that, yesterday afternoon about 2:30, we had another stolen vehicle report on a case on St. Helena. We had enough information that the brother of the initial case yesterday morning, the brother was involved in this 2:30 afternoon case. We ended up getting to another high-speed pursuit. The chase ended. We had one primary deputy, but we had 15 other officers that were involved in this particular case. K-9 was used. We were able to track a male, 2 males and 1 female, with the brother, which the information came to us was there. But we were able to use protective gear.
Right.
With all the stuff that we're issued, we're able to use it to further that arrest. We made multiple charges in that. One guy was wanted in Hardyville for attempted murder.
Right.
And so I guess the moral to this story is we're getting information that we need through DHEC now. And these deputies are, I'm so proud of them, the job that they do. These men and women go out here and they know that there could be an exposure. They're taking that risk with all the other risks that they do. The men and women at the Sheriff's Office do a tremendous job. This is just a small example of no fear and doing the right thing and doing their job during this time. So I want all the citizens of Beaufort County to know that I'm as proud as I can be for the men and women at the Sheriff's Office and all first responders throughout Beaufort County, fire, EMS, and police. And these men and women are doing an awesome job, and I hope our citizens, I hope they feel the same way.
Yeah, and again, we've got to thank all the businesses that are dropping things off the office for our deputies and our municipal law enforcement officers.
And we can't leave out our doctors and our nurses.
Our heroes at this point. There's no question about it. So,
but these men and women are doing an awesome job, and they're taking a risk. Law enforcement is a dangerous job, but also when you mix it with COVID-19 and the fact that you could take a virus back to your home and exposure and stuff like that. So awesome work.
Okay. Well, thank you, Sheriff. We hope everybody got something out of LowCountry Law on Air tonight, and we look forward to seeing you next time. We'll probably end up doing this again before the COVID-19 pandemic is over. So we look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you.
If you have a question or comment, please contact LowCountry Law on Air at lowcountrylaw@bcgov.net.